Hello, and welcome to Conversations with Sara. Today, I want to talk about accountability through crucial conversations. I know, a very dry subject, but something that we all agree is vital and necessary. Just unfortunately, it doesn't get done very often, or it isn't done very well. So let's begin. First of all, I want to say that the goal for having accountability, holding people accountable, should be that it's done in real time in the form of supportive feedback. It's just part of your everyday routine when you round with your staff and you talk to them. And there should be such a feeling of everyone wanting to do the right thing for the patient. You've established a good rapport and you're able to say, hey, here's something that needs to be corrected. Now that's a goal. That's an ideal. And you can get there and have that most of the time. There's always going to be an occasion when you need to go down a discipline path and you need to really have a critical conversation. When you don't have these conversations, when you don't go down the pathway, if you avoid it because you're unsure of yourself or you feel overwhelmed, it spirals. And as an interim and new managers, I'm sure that many of you have seen this. You go onto a unit or a group of people that have not been held accountable for a very long time, and there is resentment, there is low morale, absentee problem, quality numbers go down, satisfaction scores for both employees and patients are down. And that's just because we need someone to step in and kind of say, hey, this is the path. Let's rein in and let's follow the path. And if people aren't on board with it, if you have an employee who gets upset with you or chooses to leave because you held them accountable, okay, they can go. It's all right. It won't be the end of the world, and the rest of the staff will be happy. So let's talk about starting out. A good way to develop your confidence, a good way to work your way to having really crucial conversations is to begin with the simple ones. And simple ones are always attendance related because it's cut or dry. You either come to work or you don't, and you follow the policy or not. So speaking of policy, we want to pull the policies that we have. We want to know HR's policy pretty good. You want to have a really good understanding of the pathway because various health organizations will have multiple stops along the way. Some only have 3, 4, 5, 6, it just depends. And you want a really good knowledge, working knowledge in your mind as to how you need to progress. You need to know what offenses will bring someone completely up to a suspension or to an immediate termination. Those are pretty big deals. You also want to know which conversations there must be an HR representative attending or a union rep attending. These are all things that will be spelled out in your policy or in the union bylaws. Know those. When it comes to attendance, you pull the attendance record, you see where they fall. You can always start at the beginning with everyone and give them a heads up. And this is good, especially in an environment where no one's been held accountable for a long time. It's good to bring everybody in and kind of give them a, hey, this is where you're at. And this is the consequences if it doesn't stop. When you are going through this, speak calm, speak matter of fact. Just lay it out as objective as possible. Here's your occurrences. Here's where you are. Remind them of the consequences of going further down the discipline path many, many times. Having a written warning or something harsher will make you ineligible for tuition reimbursement. It'll make you ineligible for bonus money. You will not be able to transfer. There's just lots of ramifications for being on that discipline pathway. So it's fair to the employee to let them know that they're at risk and the consequences of their behaviors and their actions. You do, at the end, as you're concluding, want to work with the employee and to ask them, what can we do to help this? What can we do to get you to work on time, to get you to work the days that you're scheduled? This could be a time that you offer employee assistance, whatever the name of your company's employee assistance may be, or you have a conversation with them about FMLA. Do they need to get it for a family member or for themselves in a chronic condition they may have? You don't have to go in depth as to what kind of condition they have, but just speak to them in general terms about the possibility of getting FMLA to protect their job. It's always a nice thing to let people know that you really want to work with them because you don't want them to lose their job over something like attendance. And especially if it's an employee that does a really good job when they're there. But holding people accountable for their attendance will go a long, long way to improving morale, and others can see, hey, this is how it works. This is what's happening. A little bit more in depth of a conversation is one that involves clinical practice. But these are usually conversations that you're not having alone. If you have an event that occurs clinically, you have to do a fact-finding, you have to do investigations, you have to gather and drill down. And a lot of times this is done with the help of risk management or a quality department. There might be other managers involved, other departments that are involved in something, because a lot of times these clinical issues uncover process problems, policy problems, equipment problems, just various things, orders that are antiquated and out of date. A lot of things get uncovered during a investigation of a clinical event. So that is typically something that you're not going to be doing on your own. And then the group decides where, along with HR, where a person would land in this with clinical, and usually you attach performance improvement, and these are the things and the actions you need to take to improve your practice. And it may be remediation with an instructor or the clinical education department. It may be doing education online, whatever the case may be. So clinical, again, is not as cut and dry as attendance, but it's still, there's a policy, there's a process. Did you follow it? Well, if you followed it and there's a bad outcome, do we need to change that process? Or did you disregard the process and now I need to talk to you about following our policies? So the clinical aspects is still something that's pretty objective. Which leads me to the most difficult conversations that you'll have. And those are the behavioral conversations. When someone is just being a bully, they're aggravating, they're not working well with the team, and they're creating havoc with their behaviors. That can be a very subjective. You need to have lots of documentation. You need to have a clear understanding of what you want their behavior to look like. And that's how you have to write it, using the language of the code of conduct or behavior standards that your health system may have. Follow those standards, use that language, and develop a plan and say, this is how it needs to look. These conversations can be difficult because the person that you're talking to is not going to be receptive most of the time. They're going to be resistant. They're going to deflect and accuse others of doing far worse. So it is your job as the manager to remain even and calm and also to refocus the conversation. And one thing that I like to do, a trick that I like to do, I use my hands. I talk with my hands a lot, but I can use my hands to focus. We need to focus in. We're talking about you. We can talk about the others at a different time. That's between me and them. Right here, right now, it's you and me. And this is what we're going to focus on. And you may have to say it 10 times, but rein them in. Don't let them take you down a rabbit hole, because you want them to correct their behavior. And if there's others that are behaving the same way or worse, then you're going to have conversations with them. It isn't this person's business. If they get irritated with you, I've had staff who I've talked to threaten me, threaten to, harm me. But at the end of the day, you can't let fear and intimidation rule you. You just have to move forward. And one of the things that I have found is very effective is to tell someone, you may not agree, and that's fair, but it still stands. You have every right to write your rebuttal, but it still stands. And if you've done your homework and you have all your documentation together and you've vetted this through HR, you've done your due diligence. I have termed a few people in my career. It's not pleasant, but in the long run, it pays off. So that you can get to that point where the staff trusts that you're there to help them make things better. And they are going to be receptive to accountability conversations. Which brings me full circle back to the ultimate goal of having less discipline and more conversations in the moment. And there are lots and lots of training and books and online things that you can watch, techniques that you can use for providing feedback to employees. Two right off the top of my head that I hear a lot are the 3 wins and the 1 opportunity, or support, coach, support. I don't like to use them. I will if someone is there on the unit auditing me, if there's a group that's coming in or senior leadership comes in and they want to see it in practice, so you have to use the script and follow it. Of course I can do that. Anyone can do that, can follow a script. But in my practice, I don't like to use that because I feel it's much more effective if you just come across as genuine. If you are rounding every day, touching base with your staff, asking them how they're doing, giving them recognition when they deserve it, then it'll be much easier for them to accept if you say, hey, this is something that you need to work on. Because I will tell you for myself, when someone is talking to me, say an auditor comes and they watch something that I do and they're going to provide me with some feedback, and I start hearing these 3 wins, I'm not really hearing them. My mind is like, okay, hurry up, get to the opportunity. Hurry up, get to the opportunity. So I completely dismiss the 3 good things that they said because I want to hone in on the one thing that I need to work on. And I think that's human nature, and I think a lot of people do that. So because I do that, that's how I react to that type of a feedback conversation. I don't like to give those type of feedback conversations because I don't want the good things that I say to you. I don't want the recognition that I give you to be dismissed because you're worried on the back end as to what's coming next. So if I just go around and give you that recognition and allow you the moment and the opportunity to enjoy it, to feel proud of yourself because you did do a good job, then, later I will come and talk to you about something else that may need correcting. So, as always, if there is anything that you would like for me to expand upon, if you would like to reach out to me and do a video conference or just chat on the phone to kind of talk through what a conversation would look like with someone, I'll be more than happy to help you. If you don't want to talk to me, talk to one of your colleagues, one of your trusted colleagues there at where you work or where you've gone to school, or someone that you've known in the past. Just find somebody that you can kind of practice with, because critical conversations may be intimidating, but they're doable with practice. You gain confidence and you understand that what you're saying and what you're doing is ultimately going to help the person. I will leave you with an example that I have that I tell often. It happened to me a long time ago when I was a new manager. This was an older woman who was a nurse's aide, and she was falling asleep on the job. And everybody kept coming to me. She's falling asleep. She's falling asleep, and we can't depend on her. It's awful. And I brought her in. I had the documented times and days that I never caught her sleeping, but the days and times that the charge nurses would catch her sleeping. And I brought her in and I had a conversation with her. And I told her this has got to stop, that she needs to figure out what's going on in her life that's keeping her from sleeping at home because she can't be sleeping on the job while she's working. And she was very upset with me and resentful with her coworkers for telling on her. But I said, please, if you're having troubles, go see a doctor. Well, she did go see a doctor, and she came back to talk to me, and she thanked me, and she actually gave me a hug and started crying, because she had congestive heart failure. Her ejection fraction was only 15%. Her doctor told her she should not be working. She should be on disability. She should be taking care of herself. And she was falling asleep at work because she was killing herself by not taking care of herself. And she thanked me for saving her life. I will never forget that. I'm never going to forget how I felt when she came back to see me. And I always keep her in the back of my mind when I have conversations. You never know what's going on with someone. You never know what might be causing these behaviors, whether they're bullying or attendance. But if you can be the person who kind of stops it, then you're doing them a favor, as well as the unit and everyone else. So I hope that my words have helped. I hope that you can find something to take away from all of this. Again, if you have any comments or concerns, anything you want me to talk about in the future, then please feel free to comment below this video or send a comment to me on the group chat. But thank you so much for listening, and have a great day. Bye.